Hi ladies, so this is lecture 3, chapter 6. This is my second time recording it, so I'm really hoping I don't accidentally miss over any important facts. Last time I recorded it, somehow or another, the microphone was not connected, so I recorded 20 minutes of static, which was lovely to be discovered. Today we are going to talk about section 2, what the church teaches about Mary. So this is a big thing that a lot of people don't understand fully, and it's kind of controversial among other religions. But the main idea is that the church teaches several dogmatic truths about Mary that have been formulated, practiced, and believed from the church's earliest days. So the intro talks about how the church teaches several truths about Mary. Everything from the Immaculate Conception to today, Mary has a role in God's plan for salvation. When we talk about the Immaculate Conception, I'm hoping most of you guys know this already, but just in case you don't, the Immaculate Conception is not when Jesus was conceived. A lot of people think that. They are all incorrect. The Immaculate Conception is when Mary was conceived, free from sin. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. But when Jesus gave his mother to the church while he was on the cross, her role was pronounced and magnified. So we talked about this in the last week at some point. And when Jesus was on the cross and he said, "Behold your mother," this is when he validated our view of Mary as a church. Or I guess this is when he not validated it because it wasn't really existing yet, but this is when he confirmed that he wanted her to have a role in the church. After Jesus' ascension, Mary supported growth of the church. We saw this at Pentecost. Because Mary is the mother of the church defends its teachings about her as a child would do for his or her mother. So, the Immaculate Conception, like I said, this is not when Jesus was conceived. Get that into your brains. A lot of people think, a lot of good Catholics think that's what it is. It is not correct. It is when Mary was conceived without sin. She was conceived free from original sin. It should say original right before there. And she also lived a life free of personal sin. So original sin is the hereditary sin that Adam and Eve kind of gave to all of their descendants. But personal sin is the choices that we make that are not of God. And so Mary not only was born without original sin, she was also conceived, or she also did not commit any personal sin. So God the Father blessed Mary more than any other human person that has or ever will live. And so I know that's the reason for that is because of her role in Jesus' life. But that does not dismiss anybody else from sharing in God's grace or God's plan. So through baptism, we all receive the grace to be freed from original sin, and then we have the choice to do with it what we will. God used Mary to make an irremovable commitment to involve all humans in everything that he does. So when he included Mary in his plan, he was saying that he didn't just create humans to exist. He created them to be a part of his plan. He wants us to partake in all these good things that he has in store for us. And Mary and her choices affirm. So the Immaculate Conception is the sign and the promise that everything that could separate humans from God has become powerless. So when she was conceived without sin, it proved that even though Adam and Eve sinned and brought, pushed God a little bit out of this world, there were certain things that we couldn't do because we didn't have God's grace. But when Mary was conceived without sin, he made all of those things that we could not do possible. So Mary's freedom from sin is the promise that one day all God's people will be free from the tendency toward sin and its lasting effects. The Church's belief in this teaching began in the earliest days from written testimonies, but was made dogma in 1854 by Pope Pius IX. So even today, a lot of things that the church teaches holds to be true, but they don't really make it dogma, as in a dogmatic teaching of the church, as in something that we have to believe as Catholics until there's some sort of heresy that contradicts it usually. That's not always the case, but in the case of Mary, it was when somebody questioned some of the church's teachings on this that the church said, no, this is what God has revealed to be true. So Mary gave her approval of this church's teachings in 1858, so only 4 years later, when she appeared to Saint Bernadette in Lourdes, France, and identified herself as the Immaculate Conception. The next title is the Assumption of Mary. So Mary was assumed into heaven, body and soul. The book is very intentional on how it says that. So it says in your books, the assumption was after Mary's earthly life ended. Mary was immediately taken body and soul into heaven. So it doesn't say after she died, it doesn't say after her death, but it says after her earthly life ended. The church does not presume to know whether or not Mary died or if she was assumed to heaven, body and soul, without dying because she was free from sin. So death, as we know, is a result of sin, and so it's hard to know for certain whether or not Mary died or if she assumed into heaven, body and soul without having died. So it's unknown. Different people feel different or understand it in different ways, and so a lot of very intelligent people believe one thing, a lot of very intelligent people believe in the other, but the church does not hold an official position, and so you don't have to believe one way or the other. So this, as well as the belief in the Immaculate Conception, like we just talked about, was widely accepted before it was declared. So again, what that means is that a lot of people accepted this church teaching, a lot of people believed it to be true, but at some point in history, the church, like people of the church, questions its validity, and so the church had to respond, and the church had to say this is truth, or this is sometimes what the church will say about like different apparitions, which we're going to talk about. Like, we don't hold an official position, in so many words. That's not exactly what they say, but that way people can believe it if they want, and if it helps them grow closer to God, then so be it, and if it doesn't, then they don't have to believe it. So different people in the church have different perspectives of whether or not Mary died. The feast has been celebrated in history as the anniversary of Mary's falling asleep. So that's just one way people view it. In 1950, Pope Pius XII officially declared the Assumption a dogma of the faith. Again, a dogma means that we as Catholics have to accept this teaching. And so this specific dogma says that Mary's body and soul were united as she was taken into heaven to be with her Son. Her Assumption was a sign of our hope for salvation, and it affirms that we will reunite with our bodies after death. Also, Mary's Assumption is a reminder that even though the existence of evil and death has not run its course, there's foolproof evidence that God's final triumph over evil has already been accomplished. So lastly, Mother of the Church. So this is Mary's greatest title. The reason for that is because of the significance of a mother and in relation to the church specifically. Because we know Mary is the mother of Jesus, we know that she's the mother of the church as well. Just as she nurtured and cared for Jesus, so too does she for the church. So in the same way, a mother will carry the baby and then nurture physically, emotionally, mentally for a baby, like Mary did for Jesus. She does that for the church. So obviously it doesn't look the exact same as a mother does, but as a motherhood does, but she has the same care for the church that she does for her child, that most mothers do for their children. Blessed Pope Paul VI once said, sorry, that's a typo, once said of Mary that she carries on in heaven her maternal role with regards to its members of Christ, cooperating in the birth and development of the divine life in the souls of the Redeemer. So think about everything your mother has done for you, and just know that Jesus' mother is willing to do the same. She's willing to cooperate and participate in your life in any way that she is welcome, so that she can help you grow to be the person you're called to be. Mary's motherhood is a gift to the church. She is a perfect model of faith and holiness. So we're grateful to have her as our example. So in the same way you guys might look up to your moms and say, oh, I want to be a lawyer like my mom, or I want to be a doctor, or a real estate agent, or whatever it might be, so too is Mother this perfect example of what we're called to be like. We also call Mary Mother because it's an example we should follow. So that concludes the lecture. For today's comprehension questions, do them individually and then go over them as a class. Make sure you guys all have the correct answers. I think there's something I wanted to say about it, but I can't remember what it was. So I hope you guys have a lovely day. At this point, you can press pause and do your questions and then go over them as a class.